Well, I think it's such an important way to pick an animal, and that's something that I think we do terribly in the reptile hobby. We're just like, oh, I like the way that animal looks, so I'm just going to buy it. And then you get disappointed when you find out that it's nocturnal and you're never going to see it, and you don't even
Yeah,
like the way that its natural environment looks, so you don't even want to build it a nice enclosure. That's like, find a part of the world that you want to recreate, and then look for an animal that has behaviors that you'd like to see, and then go find, an animal that fits that bill. You kind of have to
yeah,
work at it that way. You don't want to start with the animal, or else you're going to be disappointed.
yeah. I look for animals like so I like building enclosures. I'm never going to stop. Even since when I was building enclosures when I was a kid, every year and a half I would build a new enclosure just because I had a new idea. So there's two animals that I have that are like a muse, I would say. And Doc is one, and Sonic, the common tree snake, is another. I can see myself building enclosures for them for the rest of my life. Like there's just an endless possibilities for what you can do for them. And the only reason why Doc doesn't have a bigger enclosure now is that like when I moved to this house, I was really hoping that I could get a bigger enclosure. Like so, Doc's enclosure is on wheels. It weighs probably 200 and 300 kilos or something when it's
Yeah.
empty, and about almost a ton when it's full. But I can get it through a doorway. Like it's 2 foot wide because our doors are 2 foot wide. If I was hoping that I would have, I've got a ranch slider at the back here, but in order to get to the back of my house, I can only go through a 2 foot doorway.
Ah,
You know what I
dang
mean?
it.
So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it would be huge. Like, it would be huge. And I get a lot of like people comment, it's too small. And also like it's great that you're giving this animal so much space. And I actually err on the side of it's too small. I agree. Hence the digging extension, but it's still too small. And once we can, like the enclosure that Doc's in is going to be huge. I've already got it. It's already planned. I know where all the pieces are. Like I've got all the pieces to do it. I
Will
just
it be
don't
a very similar setup, just kind of expanded as far as dimensions go, or do you have something crazier planned?
way bigger, way better.
How big?
Really, I've got it all. I've got it all. It's all ready to go. I just need a doorway that's wider than 2 foot.
So that will come
Really,
when a new house comes.
when the house is built, we're going to remove walls to put this thing in.
How big are you going to go with it?
So the tank that I'm looking at is 10 foot by 4 foot by 3 foot,
Wow,
just to give you an idea.
that's amazing. That's the
So
tank, like the water
just
part?
water, just water.
Wow, that would be amazing.
But yeah, like I said, it's everything's sourced already. I just need the space. So one of the things that book says is that they basically tracked Merdens along the Kimberley. They tracked I think 20 specimens or something, something like that. And they basically found that they would travel a kilometer in a day, up to a kilometer along the river searching for food. They would hunt basically in the morning, like dawn and dusk. And I see dusk. I don't really see dawn because I'm never here. But at dusk, she is in the water having a last little sniff around to see what's there. And they also say that they never really found more than 5 meters away from the water's edge. So that tells me that the perfect Merden's enclosure, there's 1 kilometer long, and then what's a river? So you'd say 15 meters, 1 kilometer wide, 15 meters long, and then say 6 foot high or whatever. 20 meters because you've got to have 5 meters of land. So 5 meters of land, 15 meters wide of water, and 1 kilometer long. That's a perfect Merden's water. That's a perfect Merden's water monitor enclosure. So
You need a big house for that.
Yeah, so we're gonna try and do a little slice of that.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I totally get the appeal of doing the Mertens enclosure because you have all these different features. But then you said with Sonic, your common tree snake, which is not a species I'm super familiar with, you say you have that same sort of sense of enjoyment.
Yeah.
So what about that species gives you that too?
Just the way it interacts with its habitat. Like it swims, it perches out on the branches. It's got crazy vision. Like its ability to see what's going on the other side of the room is insane. The idea. This is the other thing too. Is that like my process with enclosures is I'll read like the Wikipedia on it, and you can get so much information just from a simple paragraph. Like for a Merden's water monitor, if you look at Wiki, it says something like often seen on branches over rivers, ready to escape when someone comes. So
exactly what she's doing now.
Yeah. Nailed it. Like it's that simple.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Like that's the whole enclosure was designed around that one sentence. And look,
there she is.
That's where she is. So the common tree snake, you got to think it spends its life in the trees, and it doesn't actually. It's so versatile. You find it everywhere, but you often find them near water. So there's water. I imagine that a common tree snake, they're quite secretive. They're quite, they move around. They don't make a lot of noise. I figured that if they're in the tree and they're in a bus, they're going to be coming out on a tree limb and catching that little bit of sun just on the edge of the leaves so they don't get picked off by birds. So the way that enclosure is designed is that all the basking takes place out at the very extremities of that branch that goes through. But then they also need all that space to hide. So you've got plants and leaves and super dense planting on the one side, and that's where all the water is. And then out on this branch in front of the rock wall, that's completely dry.
That's amazing. I love that detail, and it's something that I say all the time is that when you replicate those parts, that piece of nature that animal's genetically predisposed to use in their in their habitat, they automatically do those behaviors. And if you set it up properly, it's like boom. So will you see that snake bask in that way that you were kind of thinking that it would?
100%. Yeah. Them swim, bask, everything.
That's so cool.
Like it's like this is the thing. Like the thing I get the most enjoyment from is that I read this paragraph, I get this vision of what the enclosure is going to do, and then I see them do it. That's like the best validation, you can get. And when I see her doing that, the first time I saw her doing that, I was like, awesome. This is the best thing ever. And I come in here and Sonic's, basking on the rock or out on the branch, and then he goes, I don't like being so out in the open. Goes into the trees, peers out at me. He goes, oh, you're all right.
It's so cool.
It's great.
Well, and I do really think that whole process is something that we lack a lot in the hobby, and